Hey, thank you for joining me again for another video on the 7 habits of highly effective people. I'm Jason Duncan, and this is Results Through Integrity. All year long, we've been going through these 7 habits of highly effective people, of course, as you know, from the Stephen Covey group. It's one of the best books ever written on interpersonal relationships and how quality people actually turn into effective people. Because there's a lot of people out there that do good things, but they're still not effective. And so what I want to do in this channel for The Real Jason Duncan and for Results for Integrity is I want to help you get more effective in your relationships. So the card this week, we're on week number 36. Hard to believe we're already on week 36. As we're talking about this concept, the habit 5 is to seek first to understand, then to be understood, which is a great thing for all of us to live by. The card this week has this as our activity. It says, avoid autobiographical listening. Now, what does that mean? Well, we're going to talk about what autobiographical listening is, but the idea on the front of the card down here at the bottom, it says this: think of a time when someone listened to you with understanding and respect. How did you feel? We could probably remember the times when people really listen to us. I mean, really listen to us. We're talking and their eyes are locked. They're really listening. They're intently listening. And when we pause, they don't interject their opinion in the pause. You can tell they're legitimately thinking about what it is that you just said. The people who listen like that are few and far between. Because most of us, if we're honest with ourselves, we are autobiographical listeners. Now, what does that mean? Well, on the back of the card, it says, do I listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand? Which gives us a clue into what autobiographical listening really is. But before I define that, I want you to ask yourself that question. Do I listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand? And I have to admit that I find myself doing that a lot. I go to luncheons where we're meeting people. There's 3 or 4 people at the lunch spot. They're exchanging conversations, telling about who they are, what they do for a living, and oftentimes I find myself thinking about what I'm going to say next. And it's funny because you can really see this when you hear 2 other people talking, but you never notice it about yourself. You can notice that when 2 other people are talking, one person's not really listening because as soon as the one person stops talking, the other person immediately interjects. And you know, because you're a third party listening, that the first party wasn't done. They just took a pause. They were collecting their thoughts to move on to the next concept, and they were interrupted. So it says here on the card that autobiographical listening is filtering what others say through their own story. Rather than focusing on the speaker, you're waiting to jump in with your perspective. And if we want to be effective people, we've got to take this to heart to stop practicing autobiographical listening. We've got to quit filtering the other person's story through our own perspective. If we truly want to be an effective person as an entrepreneur, as a leader, we want to make sure that we practice true listening, that we are seeking to understand before we are seeking to be understood, as the habit 5 in the 7 habits of highly effective people teach us. The quote for this week actually is a Native American proverb, and it says this. I think this is great. I've never heard this before. Listen, or your tongue will make you deaf. That's great. Well, again, I'm Jason Duncan. I thank you for choosing to follow this content. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would be very, very grateful. I think I'm up over 2,000 subscribers now, and I appreciate you following me on this content. And if you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, I invite you to do so. You can search for me at The Real Jason Duncan, and I will be posting more and more content on business, entrepreneurialism, leadership, people, ideas, innovation. So if you're interested in any of that, please connect with me there. I'll see you again next week, and until then, remember, Jesus is King.